it happened too quickly. Like the Cardinals were never in that. Yepes hit the homer in Game 1. You figure, all right, this is going to go the right way, and then you had the Helsley finger issue, and then the bats just remain quiet. If you're not getting anything, we said it before the series started. If you're not getting anything from Goldie or Arenado, which they didn't, it's gonna be a tough row to hoe, as they say, and it was. I just feel like this. Maybe it's rights holder rigmarole, but I just felt like they're better than they showed. And I think had they gotten through that first round, they had an opportunity to do something. It didn't happen, though.
That was a downer, Matty. It's all Helsley's fault.
Yeah,
I'm blaming everything on him.
Well,
I was pumped up. Yepes hits a bomb. We're like, yeah.
Yeah, well, Yepes hits the bomb, but I mean, also by that point, it's what was that, the 7th inning, 8th inning? It seems so long ago, but not that long ago now. But you hadn't done anything. When I look at that series, I look back and remember the Cardinals scored all their runs in one inning of one game. And that was it.
Yep.
And then the rest of it moved along pretty quickly because games don't seem to take too long when you're not on base. At least it didn't drag it out and you lost. You got chased by 8 runs like it happened up in Toronto.
Oh,
and you got a huge lead.
Happy
and then you get chased down. Yeah, no kidding. You'll need an extra helping a pasta after that.
Boom bang.
But no, that's a tough series, and we talked about it. It's an un-Cardinal-like series the way that went. I had to think back through all the series that I've seen, and that one's going to stand out. How that season came to a close.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Poof.
Yeah.
Nate, was there a big? How did Ollie? If you're going to grade Ollie's, if you're going to throw him a grade as a manager, did he keep Helsley in there too long? Is there any complaints coming from you, Sir Nathaniel? You seem like you're in a good mood today, but you just never know if you have any hot takes back there.
Well, it sucks that it's over. I mean, that's the worst part about it. It was such a fun season, and I think everybody in St. Louis thought that they'd overcome kind of the slow end with the offense, and they were going to pick it up and at least get into a legit series. I think that it's too bad that you. I mean, it's too bad that you win the division. You win 93 games, and you get a best of 3 to show for it.
Yeah, dude.
And then you lose 2, and then the Friday game happens in heartbreaking fashion, and you're out just like that. The season's over, and we're talking about the offseason. So that's brutal. My biggest beef with Ollie was taking Quintana out of the game when he did after 75 pitches with the intel that the team clearly had that Helsley wasn't 100%. I don't know what percentage they're going to put him at, but he wasn't at 100%. And now you're asking a guy who, for the large part of the season, couldn't go on back-to-back days. He's got to get 5 outs in the biggest moment of his career. See, and you decided to lengthen the game with an area of your team that I don't think is your powerhouse. I mean, you have a good bullpen. You got a lot of options, but I don't know if you had defined roles. Everything was matchup based, and by pulling Quintana, who was absolutely cruising. I mean, he allowed 1 double, 75 pitches.
He was cruising, wasn't he?
But that's how they handled it. See, to me, like he had one eight inning outing where they left him in longer, but for the most part, if you look at Quintana and what they were doing, they always took him out 5th, 6th. 70, 80 pitches. Yep. Like, that's what they did. And you look at how good he was, you're like, okay, this system works. So why are we going to change it? They thought Helsley was beyond the finger. Now, certainly that's something you wonder about, right, if you're Ollie Marmol. I think what got him, though, is 8th inning, he comes in for 2 batters, throws 100 miles, then a breaking pitch. He looked fine.
Yeah.
So I think any worries you had were gone. Then you're in the 9th. You don't have a guy warming up, I don't have a problem pulling Quintana. I probably would have had someone warm, ready to go that wasn't Flaherty because, the truth is some of the issues that Jack had to get past was control. So you don't want to bring him on in a role that he's not used to where one walk could, ruin it.
Well, I
but
think...
let me finish.
Yeah.
But so you have Helsley on after getting the 2 outs and looking like himself. He comes on in the 9th, and all of a sudden he loses it, and it happened quickly, and they should have had someone backing him up, and they didn't.
Well, and that was the thing that stood out to me about the way that the bullpen got used and why I do tend to agree with the decision about Quintana is that when you brought in, you went to Hicks, you used him for 2/3, out. You go to Gallegos, he was, up and down. You got to bring Helsley in on the other side of that. It's done. The thing is, when I look at the bullpen and I look at what they were going to be comfortable with going at the end of the game, you used them all. You used them all before you got to the ninth inning, unless you're going to flip it around to the left-hand side and go with people. I don't know. I think that Jack's issue was that, but I do have a problem going through this entire series and him not getting on the mound at all the way that he pitched down the stretch. I would have felt better if Flaherty would have been up and ready to go quicker, because as I was sitting there watching game one and looking what was going on, when Helsley started to go downhill, nobody was up yet. Like, I think it took getting two guys on for them to hurry up and get Palante and Flaherty up and get them going. I would have just had somebody on the backside of Helsley there because it was pretty clear when he came out. What are we looking at?
And then, so it was kind of cool that Yachty and Albert both went out with hits right in their last at-bats. But after the game, do we have any Yachty? Because I never really saw him as emotional as he was in the clubhouse after the game.
Yeah, I was glad about that too. To hear Yachty say what he had to say about, I was determined basically from my last at bat to not be an out. I was like, all right, cool, love that.
I watched him right before he got the hit. He paused and he just kind of stared at home plate, down at home plate, collected his thoughts. He said a prayer at that point. You
got that mug?
Here we go. This is
We want to go and win this game and tomorrow play another game, but baseball is like that. We couldn't do it. But, I mean, it is what it is.
Can you put into words what this town has meant to you?
This is my home. St. Louis is my home. I appreciate all the fans for all the support over many years. I'm going to miss them.
How about the ovation when you came off for the final time?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, we got the best fan in baseball right there. Support the players. It doesn't surprise me.
What does it mean to you that you'll never be a teammate of Albert again? You never play a baseball game?
With Albert, I'm going to be his brother forever. You can ask for more.
What was that like going through this season? You and Albert both knowing this was the last.
Yeah, it was a great season. I mean, great season for everybody here in the clubhouse, for all the moments, all the memories, good memories. Albert was fun to watch come back and do his thing. I mean, it was fun.
That
was cool.
First of all, shout out to 590 for driving.
Oh my God, Jimmy and Frankie, baby,
driving it.
He's still kind of hard to understand, but yeah, he was emotional.
I got to tell you something. So there were a couple times, I think after the first game and the second game, where there's literally 30 people in there, 40 people, and then no one had a question to ask. Like, sometimes I'll ask the first couple, and then you give it up. You give up the.
What are you doing?
You look around.
What are they doing?
You look around the scrum and guys, this isn't a zoo. You're here to participate.
You're in the locker room. Ask a damn question. You're there. Is anybody else? So text line. I want to hear from you guys and girls, by the way. 855-282-8255. Are you looking at this okay? I know it was a fun year, but let's move on now, right? Let's move on. It's too much going on. Let's regroup. Somebody chimed in and said, "Hey, don't worry, everybody's going to be just fine. The Cardinals accept they need a new catcher, shortstop, and outfielder." Sheesh. The Wombat chimed in. Are we glad that this is kind of over? They ended on a pretty damn good note.
I don't want to end it yet, because I know if we have Goldschmidt.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
That's one of the big questions.
There you go.
He was off for the last 3 weeks.
Yep.
Let's hear from Goldschmidt.
Not the way we wanted it to end, and it stinks for us. Got to give the Phillies a ton of credit. They beat us both these games, and just didn't end the way we wanted. Not for lack of effort, but still disappointing. Wanting to give ourselves a chance and at least try to win today and give a chance tomorrow. That didn't happen. Obviously, the goal is to win it all, and came up way too short.
Is it even harder knowing what you guys wanted to do with Yachty and Albert?
Yeah, I mean that adds to it. I mean, I think it's everything. You want to go out there and play well and try to win, and we gave it a great effort, but obviously wasn't good enough.
Is that just baseball? You guys have been so hot at times offensively. You just ran into a cold spell at the wrong time.
don't have an answer. Obviously, myself, I just got to look. I didn't play well at all. So, that's what I look at. If I could have played better, maybe we could have won at least one of them, if not both of them. So, yeah, that's disappointing. We had a few chances, just weren't able to score, and our pitching did a great job, and, we just didn't do enough to win.
It's his team now, Matty.
Well, I don't know. It's his team, man. It's Arenado's team, maybe. We'll see how that goes. I'm not too worried about that. But I do want to offer some of the things he said there. First of all, give a lot of credit to the Phillies. You got to give credit to a team that wins a series. No matter how it comes and how it goes, you got to give credit for that. I'm okay with that. However, the way that series played out and the way that some of the decisions and some of the things played into it, the Cardinals lost one and the Phillies won one. Game one, the Cardinals are in that thing and they had the opportunity to get it done. And some decisions got made and some things went out that I feel like more so than the Phillies winning that game, the Cardinals let that one go. We litigated that. We can get back into it if we need to. Game two, the Phillies had more urgency, and it shows why the big moment matters as much as it does. That Harper home run set the tone. It was a bomb, and you saw how it lit those guys up, and they just played differently after it, put a lot of pressure out there. Meanwhile, the Cardinals lineup between Goldschmidt, Arenado, and Pujols went 3 for 23.
Is that good?
In that series? Yeah, if you're pitching, that's fantastic. Those guys hit, though. 3 for 23 in the series. The Cardinals as a whole hit 185. That's just a tranquilizer shot trying to do it that way.
And Goldschmidt had opportunities, and he took an offer for the two games, and you could see he was hurting after that because it was a bad final couple of weeks for him. I mean, he went from lock MVP, possibly Triple Crown, to a guy who limped across the finish line, and unfortunately that limp kept on during the wild card series. So looking ahead, to me, I don't think it's that big a deal what they need. First of all, I think they're going to be stocked with their starting rotation. I like the way that shakes out. I think they have to make a decision, and if I'm in the front office, I think to myself, hey, our offense went stagnant for the last couple of weeks. That's with Pujols turning back the clock like no one ever suspected he could. They got to spend money on a DH, like a slugger as a DH. I hadn't thought of that before, but as protection in case the offensive stuff that we saw come and go goes again next year. Shortstop, I'm fine with Tommy Edman at shortstop. The question would be who takes over second base. Yes, they probably need an outfielder. As for catcher, to be honest with you, I don't want to overspend on that.
No
especially
reason to.
For a guy who might end up being a dog. I think what you have, I'd like to see them get like a guy like Tucker Barnhart, lefty bat, veteran guy who's not going to cost, and then you have him and Kiz, because I think there's more offensively to Kiz than we saw this year. And I think if you have a platoon that way, and you're not going to have to spend a ton of money.
It's an interesting catcher market this offseason. Mike Zunino, Christian Vasquez, Tucker Barnhart, not Tucker Carlson, Cam. Tucker Barnhart.
Yeah, Jimmy.
Matter of fact, if he can catch for us, why not?
That's who I want, Barnhart.
There's a lot of that type of guy. Omar Narvaez. These are guys that can produce, can give you a little bit of something for it. I saw last week that Wilson Contreras got approached about what it would mean if the Cardinals came forward to him. He said, absolutely.
Yeah,
I was like, but I don't think that, to the point I want to say is that I don't think that that's the direction you need to go in, because you need to stay flexible back there, and you don't need to spin there, because I think some of those other issues are bigger. Now, I'm going to say, if you can get in there and negotiate, I'd love to have had that bat. I think that would have solved that hole that you had in the number 2 slot, and it let you be a little bit more flexible, but I wouldn't be putting a whole lot of my thoughts behind making that be the thing.
I want a DH that can hit, like a proven threat, because we had that with Pujols, even though a lot of people didn't see that coming, including myself. In the second half, he's hitting righties, and they weren't like tearing it up for large portions of when he was on fire. So you need that bat.
I think that the DH, that they got very lucky that Albert produced the way that he did because I did not think that going into this first season of having to account for the DH, the Cardinals set themselves up for success there. I mean, you go out and you get Corey Dickerson, it is what it is. That's a platoon type guy, but they didn't go out and really, I feel, compete a lot in that space in the last offseason. But I think you see now the value of having that slot in, and you got to go do it.
It changed my whole worldview because we had that with Pujols in the second half, and there were still times the offense was absent. So at the very least, they need another bat, a masher as a DH. And then in the outfield, I have a feeling this is it for Tyler O'Neill.
So I had a thing. I think me and Nate were talking about this on Saturday, that out of 3 guys that are on the team, that between Jack Flaherty, between Tyler O'Neill, and between Paul DeJong, if the over-under is 2.5, how many of those guys are back next year?
I think Jack is back. I think they're going to be excited to have Jack back. I think there might be a deal for Paul where, change of scenery might help you, opens things up for us, and Tommy Edman is slotted at shortstop. Look, Tyler O'Neill has had trouble staying on the field. When he's on the field, he's a pretty good player. He's better left field than he is center field. He's a Gold Glover in left. I also, no offense, I had this vision, and maybe I was crazy, of Tommy and Bader and Tyler O'Neill just running wild on the bases, putting pressure on defenses who are throwing the ball all over the place like it's a snowball fight. Obviously, that's not going to happen. So I would probably take a look at Tyler, and they got to figure out, are we in? Are we out?
Are you okay? Can you play? Can you stay on the field? What's the problem?
So what about going into this and looking ahead there? What's your plan around Dylan Carlson next year? Are you looking at him as a guy that can be your center fielder? Are you looking at him as going back into right and trying to figure out the other two positions? I don't think anything's locked as far as the Cardinal outfield goes, which is a huge problem. If you're trying to scrape around runs and trying to figure out a way to get it done, you got to be able to count on your outfield. Look at the difference between the outfield that we just played against that this season ended up. Look at the one that's moving forward and all the other series. They've got guys out there that they're going to count on night in, night out. But I think that Dylan Carlson is absolutely a part of the team. Just how you plan to use him says a lot.
This year. I think that's the thing.
Without a doubt. Back.
And I think, I'd rather have Bader in center than Dylan Carlson. I think Carlson is fine.
Well, Cam ruined that for us.
But sorry. If you have Bader in center, then all of a sudden Tyler O'Neill's a Gold Glover, and even Carlson in right is better. Now you got to reshuffle. I thought Carlson was decent in center. I think he has the potential to be very good in center, but I think time will tell.
The text line is blowing up. 855-282-8255. Get them in. I'll read anything. You know how I do. What do you got, Randy? What's up, baby?
Hey, how you guys doing?
What up?
Where are you guys at? When the Phillies wrapped up that series? Where are you guys at? Were you at the bar or?
I was chilling at my neighbor's house. Had a fire going. This nice fire pit that doesn't have any smoke. It's unbelievable. I was chilling, baby.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Hey, let me ask you: is Jim Cadhays there?
Nah, he left.
Yeah, I left.
Oh, okay. Well, if he's still there, let me ask him a question. What is this hatred towards Goldschmidt and Ariano? Ariano was saying the fans were going to hate him or something. Why does he feel that pressure from the fans? He's doing the best he can. If you get rid of him, who are you going to put? Gorman in third base? Let's say if Ariano opts out, is Nolan Gorman still in pitcher?
He's not going to opt out. He's not going to opt out, and
Who's
I don't think
complaining at him.
I don't know. He said the fans. He said Aaron Nando said the fans hate him now.
Somebody did say the text line's blowing up. I'll get to it. What else you got there, Rand? I don't think anybody's complaining to Arenado, although he didn't hit.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Well, I know that, but he's still here. Who are you going to replace him? The guy's
it's not even in play.
Otani.
Yeah, right.
He's playing everywhere.
Well, I don't know about that. If you can get Otani, well, I don't know. Well, anyway, let me ask you a question, Cam. What's going on with all these sex allegations against Ian Cole, and now you got some Edmonton trainer that was elected?
Yeah.
I thought the NHL was doing a better job of it. What's with all these allegations?
They're horny.
I don't get this. Why can't the teams have better control? Hey, and Cam, by the way, if you could go 1-1 against any heavyweight fighter in the from Bob Probert up to now, who would you go up against? Thanks.
Chaser.
I thought he said heavyweight. He said heavyweight.
Oh,
that's a middleweight.
Oh, my word.
That was a heavyweight?
Yeah, but I put him in the class where me and him would have an awesome 3-minute tilt. We'll get to that later. The text line
He's got little
below
hands.
She's got
Chase has little
but
hands.
they cut you. They cut you. It's weird. She got those little hands that are sharp, like little knives. Where I got,
Big meat hands.
monsters. Anywho, okay, the text line's blowing up. People are pissed.
Can we
It is what it is.
clarify that Arenado comment real quick?
Yeah.
Because I did see it.
And I'll talk about the Ian Cole stuff later too. By the way,
Well, I
Just so
think
good.
that it was an interesting place he put it on. I think he was just kind of at a stream of consciousness point when he said, more or less, I'm sure people aren't very happy with me right now. Fair enough.
Yeah,
I think that one of the things I'll be really happy about is that this is the last opt-out year because I'm over that conversation. He said repeatedly, I think he's been as highly as you can commit about saying that this is where he plans to be. Now, Kat, I know there's some talk about maybe he's going to, restructure, get that guaranteed year to get locked up at the end of the deal. Maybe that's a little bit of a change there, but that's it. Nolan Arenado, or whatever you want to call him, isn't going anywhere. He's going to be here.
I hope so.
He's the guy that is going to be the face of the franchise in my mind going forward.
I get you. No,
maybe a little bit of Lennon McCartney with him and Goldschmidt, but you can have worse problems than that.
They're taking the room over, and they're probably like, okay, good, let's get this going.
We talked about that.
That was a loud year for everybody but the players. You know what I mean? It just was too much going on. It was. I don't know.
Kat, did you get that sense at all? Or did anybody ever let on that it was kind of like, all right,
clown show?
Let's talk about baseball here. This is great. We're happy that this moment's here, but they spent a lot of time not talking about baseball.
Team stuff.
Due to the farewell tour that was going on.
I don't know how much you could. What do you think, Kat?
I honestly thought that could be a distraction. And I've seen it with other teams, other pursuits of records in the past. I honestly felt like this energized the team and energized the city. Like, I thought Ollie did a really good job of handling that, and I never felt like it was a side pursuit. It kind of felt like it was part of winning.
And I think it helped that it didn't end up being, just purely a dog and pony show because Albert was hitting bombs and winning legit players of the week, doing things like that.
Every homer either tied or gave him a lead. Like, every home run seemed to be important. It wasn't when they were up 8-0.
No, and I think that helped. I want to say that, though. That was the Arenado point. And I think that was him taking accountability. And I think that's one thing that you don't got to worry about. If you're a superstar, one of the things you don't want to be worried about if you're a fan of a team and you're following it is that if your guys aren't going to step up and take accountability in that moment.
Ryan O'Reilly does it too.
And Goldie and Arenado stepped up and did that, so they didn't hit.
But
Arenado, however, two different stories. When you look back, the stats are going to tell what it is. Goldschmidt had a bad series. 8 plate appearances, 4 strikeouts. It is what it is. There's no other way to dress that up.
It's been part of a pattern for a couple of weeks now.
Right, and it was a continuation.
Yeah.
Arenado, however, was a couple inches away from a couple of bombs.
One of them, I think, on a different night is gone. Like,
yes,
he said, I thought that was gone. It would have been.
I'm sure
on
a
warmer night, like a warmer night.
Yeah.
Well, a night where the wind isn't blowing off the Mississippi. Coming straight in over the center field.
1,000 miles wide, that Mississippi, according to Charlie.
1,000 miles deep too, according to me.
Sharon chimes in. Hey, girl. How's everything going down there? I still see everybody's finding megalodon teeth down there on the shoreline. So hopefully you go down there and find me one of them bad boys and make a necklace out of it. Anyway.
Whoa. Okay.
Yes, it's kind of cool. Our huge ass megalodon teeth are showing up over the place in Florida after the storm. The Arenado is opting out take is one of the laziest takes currently going around baseball. Next, also Kat Colby chimes in. O'Neill was playing in the Arizona Fall League on Saturday, where they were using that as a rehab start, I guess. I thought Ollie said he was ready to play. He'd be in the lineup. Cray. Kisner has waited patiently for 5 years while Yachty toyed with retirement, sat out the playoffs while covering all season. The guy deserves a job for at least next year. Cray.
Okay, a couple of things.
Go ahead.
Tyler O'Neill, they thought he was going to be ready for this series, but what happened was he was taking live BP. He was running straight ahead. He never got to the point where he was doing like base running maneuvers, cutting and stuff. When you're coming back from a hammy, you got to have that. Yeah. And Tyler also didn't want to ruin, and the Cardinals, I guess, didn't want to ruin his chance if he could have come back and they won this series, that he didn't because he pushed it too hard. There's a balance there. And then what's the other one?
The Kiz.
Look, Kisner didn't have a great offensive season. He had some ups and downs. And also, there's stuff defensively he needs to work on. He knows that. I hope they give him an opportunity because I think there's a tremendous upside. But I don't think, like Kiz is walking around going, I earned this. I think he wants to be in the mix because I think he still can earn it.
No, he said as much. He said as much himself when we were talking with him last week, that he knows that coming in the next spring, it's going to be a competition. I think he knows Herrera's coming along, and I think that the team wouldn't be smart for them to not go out and to try to pursue and look for get a veteran in that mix too. I mean, that'd be lazy approach to trying to get the team together. I mean, I get it. Spend your time, pay your dues, if an opportunity comes along. But I don't think I saw anything this year where I say, absolutely, it's just time to hand the keys over.
Remember how excited we were about this outfield of the future last year?
Oh, God.
Looking like we may only have one guy left, and he didn't even start in our last game, Colby. Kat, you don't like Jan Yepez as DH? Maybe swapping time with Nolan Gorman. Gio.
I like him in the mix. I'd like to also look. I think what happens is if you get enamored, and I'm a Yepez fan, I think Gorman's going to be a good player. They got Walker and Wynn coming up too. Like, I'm not discounting any of that. I think what we see with Albert in the second half should be a blueprint. You want a guy who's money in there, who you don't have to worry about the ups and downs you might get with a young player, based on the fact that we saw the offense that was at certain points unstoppable suddenly go quiet.
The ball Goldie chased in the dirt late in that game was absolutely horrendous. Should have been base juiced with Arenado up with one out. The Wombat chimed in there.
Hey, Paul Goldschmidt, I'm on Tactic.
Head is spinning on the Cards.
I love it.
Ollie spent too much time with tryouts for the playoffs. Too many questions in the outfield. The team should be established. Also, they had no momentum going into these games, which is crucial for the playoffs. This offense has been MIA for a month, other than Albert. Put Jeff Albert in Mo's office and get someone else to work with these players. Seems like there's a disconnect. About an hour after the Cards lost, LA Times reported Albert is going to fulfill his personal service contract in LA. Nothing like kicking the Cards fans when they're down.
Oh, I think
that was a long one, dude. Put a name in if I'm going to do that for you.
All right, this personal services contract, I saw this article come up. Listen, Albert's not about to be an indentured servant and can't leave the L.A. area. Like, he would be ridiculous to not take that contract. 10 years, we're going to give you a few mil for a personal services contract. Who doesn't take that? Let me tell you something else. There's a lot of guys walking around town for a whole lot of franchises that got personal services contracts with them. This was just the first one that had that type of length to go around. It's not like Albert can't come to Busch Stadium because he's an employee of the Angels and he can't do anything. That thing's overplayed, and I'm tired of hearing about that and have been for 20 years.
And also the Jeff Albert, like the blaming the hitting coach for 2 games in the stop it already. Like they were very good in the second half offensively. If you look at the overall numbers, no one patted him on the back when they were surging.
Yeah.
So don't call for his scalp after that.
When they introduced all 85 people on the Cardinals team before Game 1, Kat, I thought you should have got called out to the baseline. By the way,
thought he was.
I was hurt,
and that bothered me.
His hamstring.
I was upset.
He works
about
out with T. O'Neill too much.
No, I meant my feelings were hurt. I should have been out.
Oh, okay.
It's amazing how Jim just ties the broadcast together.
Yes,
doesn't
he
it?
does.
It is.
Yep.
It is, and it's a loss when the season ends. When Jeff Albert came out and they introduced him, I said, it's interesting how you don't hear as much about his name as you did the last 2 years. It's really interesting what happens when you got 2 guys that are at the MVP caliber that are hitting the ball and you don't have anybody else to scapegoat for it.
And the truth is, and you know this because you've been around covering baseball, major league hitters, even the rookie that comes up, everyone has their own hitting guy outside of the organization. Yep. Sometimes they'll slip and mention it, but they've had a guy who got them to the big leagues, who got them through high school sometimes, through college, minor leagues, and that's the guy they listen to. It's not Jeff Albert gives them stuff to help them prepare for at-bats, meaning scouting, the metrics on their swing and their production. It's not like he sits around and says, when it's 2-0, do this.
Yeah, exactly.
Or turn your hips this way. And
These are there's
bat lefty now.
Every quarterback has a guy like this in football. There's shooting coaches in the NBA. There's all of these guys.
Trainers. There's different trainers for hockey, man.
Exactly.
In the summer,
it's just that's how it is right now. I just think that because historically, then you look at baseball. There's a manager. There's 2 base coaches. There's a pitching coach and there's a hitting coach. And if something's not going right, was one of those guys, except for the first base coach. That's a pretty sweet gig.
Arenado and Goldie crapped the bed at the worst possible time. This is Sharon, and she knows about that. Love those guys, but they have yet to prove they can handle the bright lights in the postseason. Sharon and Glencoe, I got a good one down here, and they keep coming in. Keep them coming. Here's one. I blame Matty Whitener for the Cardinals' performance this past weekend. He boldly predicted the Cards would sweep the Phillies with the same level of confidence he had that he would beat Seth in a race. That's a good text. Put your damn name in.
You know what? I wanted to address that because I did feel a level of responsibility.
I got 35 minutes
I'm waiting,
in.
Maddie.
First time I brought it up.
And if I got to take responsibility, I'll take it. Give it to me. I'll take the whole thing.
What did I predict?
I'm sure the people of St. Louis aren't happy with me right now.
What did I predict?
About what? About the Cardinals?
Yeah, it was like the last 2 seconds. You guys were like, what do you think, Cam? I go, they're going to lose twice. All right, we'll see you guys. I called that. Nate, what do you think? I see smoke coming from you. What are you thinking over there, homeboy? Is everybody making sense? Who are you pissed at?
No, taking Quintana out of the game was stupid. I don't know how you can defend this. It was the dumbest move, and then to sit there on his hands like he did while Helsley imploded. It was just Friday. You know, the Cardinals were 93-0 when they took a 2-0 lead into the 9th inning of a postseason game. So, by definition, it is the worst loss that the Cardinals have ever had in the postseason. And the manager was Ollie Marmol. And there needs to I don't know. He had a rookie moment. I don't know what
strong you want to come at
rookie
it,
moment.
guy. It was a green moment for Ollie under the brightest lights. They've never lost a game like that. And he wanted to somehow lengthen the game with an area of his team that he knew was vulnerable going in.
Well, I'll say this, and I don't disagree with that.
Rookie moment.
I think it's the second straight postseason exit for the Cardinals where it's been about what's the option to go to in the bullpen. The Helsley injury changed things. Immediately when the Helsley injury happened, I was like, in the extra series that should have been played in April, of course this happens. So I'm going to blame me, but I'm also going to blame...
Well, you're part of the blame.
And I'm going to blame the lockout, too.
I'm going to blame Seth, too.
Yeah, let's get a little bit for everybody. I ain't going to blame Seth, because Seth showed up to the show on Saturday morning looking fresh, had a whole crew with him. He did have a guy in a Patrick Kane jersey, but we'll get around to that.
So you were down there, too?
Yeah, I went to the
that's a party.
Yeah, just to pop my head in there, say what's up. I got running a little late, but
it was good.
Awesome
it was good.
show, though.
It was good to see you. Thank you, bro. We had a good time. It was good working with Nate.
Yeah.
But the thing that
Nate will party.
The thing I'm going to say is I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about the show. We can talk about the show after the show, but we don't have to talk about the show because we both had a good show in between the games.
That's a long session, dude. That's a long session.
It might have involved 3 different places, too. I don't know. We'll see what's going on.
Wow.
But the point that I was going to make about it is that last year, you got the Alex Reyes moment pop up. Yep. And you're just like, oh, God, you got to go to this. Now the Helsley thing that came there. We talked about a catcher. You talked about figuring out the outfield. You figure out a shortstop. I think that what the Cardinals need to do is to go and find the guy that's like the type of pitcher that they faced in this series in David Robertson, a guy who's got some closing experience, who's not going to cost you $10, $11 million a year, which I think is a ridiculous investment in a bullpen guy, but bring in somebody else who can firm up the back of the bullpen. I just think it's huge. Somebody that can pitch anywhere between the 7th and the 9th. You need it. And I think that could make a big difference in how things go, too.
See, I see it. I don't think that's a need. Add him on, because you never have enough.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think Hicks showed that he's healthy. He could do that. I still like Helsley at the back end of games. I think Gio is solid. I don't think he's outstanding, but he's solid.
He should be pitching where he's pitching now.
I think Zach Thompson can be part of that. There's guys that they have. I just think the thing about Quintana, I don't believe you change. If that's how you've been, everyone talked about how good Quintana was over the last month and a half of the season, last couple of months, his last 8 starts or whatever, because they used him in this way and it worked. So I'm fine with the way they handled it. The one thing I think where Ollie opens himself up for criticism is not having someone ready to go in the 9th. Helsley was sharp in the 8th, and I think that gave him a little bit too much comfort at that moment, right?
Why not do it then, Jimmy? Why not get somebody warmed up? Does it hurt their arm? Like if you warm guys up like that, does that set them back?
I think Flaherty had been warmed. I don't know if he was ready to come in that second. Should have been, but he's not really used to being a relief pitcher. He did a little bit. And also command was an issue, so when guys are on, you probably don't want a guy who may walk somebody. They should have had that have thought ahead. I think the problem was Helsley had been so good, and if he proves to you that the finger is good by getting two guys out and showing you the breaking stuff, the off-speed stuff rather, and the fastball at 100, you're like, okay, he's our guy. We're going with him.
I was not far away from the bullpen in that ninth inning, and I kept looking. Because when Helsley started losing control of the ball, he threw one that, nearly got behind him. Then he went high. What I think happened is that middle finger is so critical to being able to have any type of spin on the ball or be able to control anything outside of just a four-seamer. And he couldn't control what he was doing there. I think that he had a shelf life. I think he could come in and do what he did in the eighth and kind of be your fireman like he spent most of the year being. But I think that finger got worn down as he was out there, and he lost control of it after that. Because they were looking like they were going to let him stay in if when he got on the mound and threw those practice pitches that he could place it. But he couldn't even place that. But I looked down in the bullpen.
Plus it's cold. That's the other thing.
It all played into it. But when I looked down into the bullpen, they had two guys on before anybody even stood up. And I was like, you should have opened up the inning with at least somebody getting loose, or at least after that first
That's
two
what
walks.
I was saying. I think if there's an area of criticism for Ollie, it would probably be around there. But to have faith in Helsley at that point, I'm talking about to put him into that game, the finger checked out, and then you bring him in, and he gets 2 outs. Boom. It was like Helsley. And he's dominant. He's not Gio. Helsley was dominant.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he was the second best reliever in the National League this year. In a year, we had a pretty good season with Diaz up in New York. I'm looking at the box score from the game, and I remember exactly when I saw somebody pop up. It was right after Bohm got hit by the pitch. That loaded the bases.
Big dude with the long hair?
That loaded the bases, and that's when Palante and Flaherty popped up at that point. But that was after a single. It was after a walk. It was after another walk.
That I think is fair.
And it was clear that Helsley had no command with his fastball. And so that was even more concerning. And
at that moment, but he showed command in the eighth.
Yeah.
He had it then. That's why I'm saying it kind of came out of nowhere. He should have had, based on the fact that this guy's got a questionable finger and it's really cold, have a guy warm, ready to go. When you see any signs that he's losing command, bring a guy in. Or, at the very least, get some of Musgrove's ear goop.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
And slather that on that middle finger.
I just want an ump. I want an ump to come over and just touch my face and just like rub his dirty, greasy hands over my face. That's what I want. What were you going to say, Sethy boy?
Jesus.
The most pivotal part of that inning was the full count pitch to Bryce Harper. He threw 2 fastballs right before that, and it was full count, and then he threw that off-speed pitch in the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
If Bryce swings at that, if he chases that, he probably misses it, and we're having a whole different conversation because then you got 2 outs and 1 runner on. And then after that, the floodgates they really opened.
If my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle.
I'm sorry?
If my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle.
No, don't hold out.
Sure.
I mean,
well, I'm just saying, if he swung him, if he would have hit that, if he did this,
it's hypothetical. No, well, and then I'm not defending Marmol because after the Cardinals really let it go after that walk because he just struggled from there on out. As the game went on, or as that inning went on, he just lost it. You could tell that something wasn't right.
Well,
this is a dominant closer in the league.
And then after that happened, you had the hit that got past Tommy Edman. I mean, I think that was a little bit of a seed. You had Goldschmidt, who I wondered why he went home. They didn't make a play. That kept people moving across the inning. And then you had the Arenado thing that happened. The shadows, I feel like, started to play a role in it. It was just a Murphy's Law situation where everything.
There's like 3 different areas where it was sunny, dark, sunny.
Yeah, the only thing, and sometimes it shifted in an at bat because I watched because of the clouds. It covered and changed it in the middle of the at bat too. I was just like,
that was tough, man.
Good Lord.
All right,
and I'll say this too for people that are mad at Ollie, and that's their right. They're Cardinal fans. And by the way, thank you to Cardinal fans for the support. I tweeted that out.
Oh my God!
No,
yeah.
I always say this after each season. Thanks for putting up with me. I went around the locker room and thanked every player for putting up with me because we ask them to do a lot of stuff. Cardinal fans have been like crazy supportive, always been nice to me. So I always make it a point because
little shout out.
They're nice to me. I'm nice to you guys, and you're our customers.
Yeah.
So I always treat you with that respect.
Right.
You're our customers. But Ollie Marmol, I think, pressed all the right buttons. We talked about the home run chase, the Yadi Waino stuff, the goodbye tour. that could have gotten out of hand. I think Ali
did a good job.
Just the right amount of embracing it, but not going overboard with it. And he pushed it. Like, you have Helsley, who, based on the fact that he caught a line drive and smashed his middle finger trying to right himself. Like, you have a guy who can still throw 104 at the end of the regular season. Credit the manager for using him correctly. Ali did a lot of things right. And based on the fact that there wasn't someone warming up, or you don't like that Quintana got pulled, I hope folks can get past that, because Ali did a remarkable job.
I agree with you, Jimmy boy. I do. Cat, you're the best always. Cardinals baseball wouldn't be the same without you, sir.
That's nice.
It's a share dog, too. And she's going through a tough time, and she's also throwing compliments out. If he were Charlie, she wouldn't have done it.
It's nice. And I always say that because I mean that sincerely. Like, I'm a New Yorker. You know, I came to St. Louis, 23 years ago. Fans have always been pretty good toward me.
You're good to them, though.
I appreciate that.
Your aunt doesn't need balls to identify as your uncle. I'm offended, Mitchie boy. Yeah, Mitchie boy. What's up?
Yeah, it's 2022, bro.
What am I thinking? That was a Don Cherry quote from like 1982.
Hey, be who you are.
That is what it is. You don't bring in the infield with one out when you bring a ground ball pitcher in. Marmol looked lost in game one. It's cost them the series. Gino, he played minor league ball.
Marmol's not lost. Trust me. That guy's a savvy guy. Trust me.
Gino's always,
I tell you what,
amped up.
about Ali, and you look at this first year, and I think that one of the things that I can recall, 9 months, 10 months talking about was, you let a manager of the year finalist go and Mike Shilton, and you bring in this guy who's just going to listen to the team and just and do what they say to do. Well, I think Ali stepped in maybe one of the weirdest situations I've seen for a manager to step in, do what he did, and to make it happen that way. Listen, it's a bad time for a rookie moment. A rookie moment makes me feel a lot. It's usually a senior moment. I feel better about it being a rookie moment. It was a bad time.
That's true.
For that,
I get you on that.
For that being a thing that happens, because when I look at him and I look at his season right now, I mean, we're looking at a guy that absolutely has to be a manager of the year finalist, and also has a great claim for saying he should win it outright. I mean, so yeah, it's a tough draw. It's a tough situation to be in. That ninth inning embodied everything that could go wrong in a game all at once happening, both on the bench, on the mound, and in the field. But at the end of the day, you put up a couple runs.
Now that's a different start. Now, you're right, though. It's better to have a rookie moment than like a Tony La Russa moment he had a couple
I don't even know if
times,
it's a rookie moment. Like,
well,
Yeah, I mean, yes, you would have felt better if he had someone ready to go, but it did come out of nowhere with Helsley, right? I say because of that eighth inning, you're like, maybe you let your guard down. You shouldn't, but you did. And then I think enough had transpired in the ninth where you're like, okay,
the thing that worried me about the Helsley injury from the very beginning was exactly how this played out, though. I was like, this happened so close to that series. If it would have even happened in that homestand, and you had a couple more days to figure out what was there, and the very next time he was going to the mound wasn't going to be in a playoff game, it's just the worst. It's one of the worst timed injuries I can remember since the Scott Rowland injury that happened with the Alex Citron thing that just swung the entire direction of that series in whatever year that was, a long time ago.
I 100% agree with Nate. Quintana was pitching great. No reason to pull him so early, leaving Helsley in huge concern. Ali seems almost overconfident in himself. I wonder if he even thinks he made mistakes. I hope the hell so. Otherwise, it'll be more of the same next time. I like the emotion. I love it. Put a name in, though, dude. Learn from history, Cat. You don't take I like it. Learn from history, Cat. You don't take a starter out to only allow 2 hits on 75 pitches. Pulling Quintana was all part of the script. God forbid we trust our eyes. Yeah, let it out, baby.
Right,
Let's go.
Because we've never seen a starter being left in too long and then suddenly everything unravels. We've never seen it. How about this? You have a system that you use to get him to that point, and it worked beautifully. And then if you are going forward, then you have Quintana exactly the same as he's been used when he's had an ERA of under 1 or whatever it is. I get it. I'm fine with that. The problem was Helsley, that finger, and I think the Cardinals reacted slowly in trying to mitigate the damage.
Hey, we talked a lot about what Quintana did Friday, rightfully so. First of all, great start. He showed up and did everything that you would have asked for a guy to do in game 1. And whether he doesn't decide how long he stays in the game or not. But with everything that was underneath his control, he did it, and expertly so. Looking ahead, though, are you trading high on that guy, or at least giving a thought about, saying, hey, maybe this is something that we need to roll back in there?
I'd roll him back in there. And so
because he's an unrestricted free agent, by the way. I want to set the table with that.
And he's going to make himself a lot of money. So if you look at who's in their rotation, right? Flaherty's back, you assume,
yes.
Right? Waino, you don't know. But Waino, I think, pretty much gave the indication he's coming back, right?
I don't know. I was going to ask you about that because
I took it as yes.
Some of his comments, it really, for the first time, it made me think. I believe he said that I don't know if we've got any Waino sound, but he said he already knows his decision, and it sounded a little bit like it could go either way.
Run it back, let's go. I told you Cardinals would lose in 2. Albert should have hit 7th. If the Cardinals into numbers, Albert number 1 hitting in a double plays, key moment. Next they should put away. Okay. Stop what you're doing.
Marcell Ozuna?
And text better. And no, you didn't call it. I called it. So sit down. Guys, the great Tom Ackerman had Marmol on Sports Sunday morning yesterday, and he went all over of the decisions. It's worth a listen.
He
Kyle.
also had a post game where he talked about it. Okay,
Yeah.
Basically, he said, "No, I would have done the same thing with Quintana, but I should have had someone warming up." Do we have Waino sound?
Yeah. Do you want? I'm trying to find where he talks about the future. Do you want?
I think
just want to hear it.
Yeah, see what we, because it's pretty early in it, I think.
We're setting the table all day for us, and Yachty and Albert are absolutely the tied for the first most clutch players I've ever played with, so not a surprise.
I know that you were saying you're focusing on the game there, but were you able to take any of the moments of the fans, just especially that ovation for Yachty at the end, and seeing how much these two meant to the organization and also to the fans here?
Yeah, I did take that in. I mean, it was the crowd was really rooting for them. You could tell, really rooting for everybody. They did a great job. This last month and this whole second half is the best I've ever seen our fans ever. And they showed up, did a great job for us, and we're just, unfortunately, we didn't bring it home for them.
You ever think about what life's going to be like for you to not throw to him next spring?
I don't throw, I pitch.
Oh, Frank,
have you thought about what it would be like to not pitch to him?
Thank you, Derek. No, I don't think about that kind of stuff.
Thank you, Derek.
That's if it happens, it'll never be the same. But if it doesn't happen, I had the greatest catcher ever catch me the whole time. So.
Have you thought about what next spring will be like for you?
Have I thought about it? Well, everyone asked me about it.
Yeah, I know. Made a career out of it.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. We should know pretty soon if something happens. If not, then it's been a good run. Thanks, St. Louis.
So thanks, Derek. Oh, you're welcome.
So I asked Mo about this, and let's be honest. Like Wainwright, the last 5 starts, he had the dead arm. He said he's past it. He was looking forward to pitching in this series. He would have had the opportunity. He also said, "I don't like not pitching in the postseason," which you could take it as he's mad that he hadn't appeared earlier, or he has unfinished business. That's how I took it. I think he's coming back. I think he wants 200 wins. And I talked to Mazalek a couple weeks before the end of the regular series, and he said, "Yeah, we would certainly want to explore talking to Waino about coming back." And I said, "How does that work?" And he said, "Well, we've done this before with Waino. We kind of know how to do it." Yeah. So my guess is they're probably already talking about what they want to do, and we'll know shortly if Waino's coming back. I hope he does.
So I wanted to pull together a couple things to look at what that means. You got Flaherty back. And this is just contractually, I'm going to throw this out. Flaherty's back. Michaelis is back. Steven Matz is back. Dakota Hudson's back. You got an arbitration going on.
And Montgomery, too.
Yeah, you got arbitration with Montgomery, but you've got him under control. You can get him back. You've, just for the sake of calling it down the middle, you've got Liberatore, who's still obviously in the system, and you had Drew Verhagen, who I completely forgot about, who's still got a $3 million contract next year. You do with that what you will. But then you've got...
And by the way, he was dressed and was introduced.
I saw it.
I think a lot of fans were like, "Oh, yeah, I forgot about that."
Yeah, I was like,
Welcome back.
Look at that. You could tell he had hip surgery, too. It took him a while to get out there.
Hip surgery.
But then you've got Quintana, who's a free agent, and you've got Wainwright, who's technically a free agent. That's a big cupboard of situations to look at. You got a rotation and a half there already and a lot to choose from. But I say all that to say, I mean, I don't look at...
Why do you hate Reyes?
Because he punches walls and breaks his hand.
Not that I hate the man. I just know what it means to count on him into the scenario. We could definitely get into that. But that's a lot of coming and going. And you already got a financial commitment to Matz, and you've got a contract that allows you to bring Montgomery back. But, man, Quintana was fantastic. I think that you got to at least look at what it would mean to try to do it.
Oh, I think they will. And I think it depends on the cost. I don't think they're going to overpay. But, I guess I've learned my lesson. You're not too old to learn lessons along the way. There's been a couple of years recently where I'm like, they've got enough starting pitching. Mm-hmm. And then guess what? They didn't have enough starting.
And then Jay Happ and John Lester throwing down the stretch.
When you looked at spring training, you're like, okay, well, this guy's an option. Oh, if that doesn't work, they can put this guy in. We're good. And they weren't good.
Yeah.
So you can, it's almost cliche, but you can never have enough starting pitching. I want all hands on deck. If we have extra pitches or you end up eating do it. Because it always works out that you never have enough starting pitching.
Waino ain't coming back. End of story. I predicted it as soon as he announced he was starting the last home game. That would be the last time he pitched. Fat Tony.
Okay. People, since I've been sitting in this seat, in this studio, have written Waino off on the text line. I work with guys who several times were like, that's done. He's done. After a while, Waino, I think, has built up equity, Charlie, to understand that this is a special cat and that he has been able to rediscover it after stretches where you thought there's no way he'll ever be good again. So I think you have to give him that respect and give it a look. Don't you?
No, I do. Wainwright is one of the guys that listen. He had his struggles down the stretch, and I said you got to be careful about how you use him. But as far as coming back into the season, I've always counted him in for 23. I just don't think there's any way that you look past what he means and how consistent. He's been the most consistent pitcher on the team over the last 2 years. And not only is you talk about how Albert's dialed the clock back and did what he did, Wainwright was almost out the door 3 years ago. But he went out there, and it seems like after that postseason against the Braves, he just turned it around and became a different guy out there. So, yeah, let him figure out and do it on his own terms. You don't show him the door.
And it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple for Waino. The curveball's there, right? There are times he has to adjust it or fix it on the fly. But the key is, and he'll tell you this if he were on, if he can throw a 90-mile-an-hour fastball and spot it where he wants, he is going to be effective. They need to be looking for that so they're not sitting on the curveball. It's that simple for Wayne.
Jimmy, you're being so biased towards Ollie. Ollie totally blew the game one. Helsley should have never been out there that long. Then you're saying in free agency their starting pitching is fine, laugh out loud. What are you watching? They need an ace. They need an outfielder, bullpen, help, shortstop, keep Admin at second, James.
Okay.
Man, I didn't say that was James,
Yeah, and he was yelling at me.
He was yelling.
Okay, so I think I was saying, no, bring Quintana back because you need all the arms. I didn't say everything was fine. You have to have all these guys in the mix. And I think you have to decide when we talk about shortstop, are you going to overpay for a shortstop or do you put Tommy Edman at second and then figure out how you want to go at short.
Put Tommy
and then
at short, yeah.
Put him at short and then figure out what you want to do at second base. I've already said they got to spend on a bat. Probably DH would be the easiest to find.
I think you got answers in the infield already. You've only got so much you got to do with it, but you need to go search for something in the outfield.
I hear you. Sanderson.
Wouldn't it be easier to get a DH, a bat?
Yeah. And I think that the easiest place to do it is to do it out there and to figure out, but you also got to leave room for the guys that are also part of your strategy. Because what happens if you spend all this money, put guys in all these seats, then Jordan Walker comes to spring training and hits like Chris Bryant did a couple years ago, and you got to find a home for the kid.
Don't you think that Quintana maybe just played himself into a David Perron situation where he could go get probably a 4-year deal?
He could, and that's probably why if that happens, he won't come back.
Perron got a 2-year deal.
I think that.
Well, yeah, but
I think that
I understand what you're saying.
No, I think that what's going to happen. Cam's going to give us the terms on the Quintana.
Ask me about contract situations. I'll tell you.
I think that what's going to happen is exactly that. Quintana just made 2.5 this year. I think that he could easily be somebody that sees a deal like the one Gallegos just got for 2 years, 11. And I don't know if 5.5 is what the Cardinals need to do there. Maybe it's
Sometimes
worth it.
when you
I'd
lose,
do
you
that.
really win.
All right.
I think it's going to be more than that. If it's 2 years.
Well, he could be a
they're
7-year guy,
gonna-
too. Not 7 years, sorry, $7 million guy easily, too.
Easily. If you're, because he could get a 4-year deal from somebody. But if you're going to go 2, you're going to pay more for the 2.